Did you know that the United States is bound by a variety of treaties to protect its allies in case of war? Consider, for instance, things in the Ukraine, a non-member of the North Atlantic Treaty Organization that's being intimidated by Russia. If a NATO ally were to find itself under similar threat from Russia, the US may find itself duty-bound to go to war. Instead, cast your mind to the South China Sea and its territorial disputes. If China were to interact militarily with the Philippines at some point in the near future, the US could be expected to step in to guard its partner. Since 1951, the US and the Philippines have had a bilateral agreement for mutual defense. What's more astonishing is that a war with either China or Russia would be a really big deal, especially if that war is on behalf of a third party. This becomes more surprising once you realize that the US government could be legally obliged to defend countries containing 25% of the world's population. Weird, right? That figure comes from The Myth of Entangling Alliances, a piece of writing by Michael Beckley, a professor in the Department of Politics at Tufts University. By his calculations, Beckley used two alliance datasets, the ATOP dataset and Douglas Gibler's alliance dataset, to find US defense pacts. Beckley also includes two countries where no formal defense agreement has been signed: Israel and Taiwan. By this count, 69 countries have some sort of defense pact with the US. And as Beckley notes, they make up around 75% of the world's economic output. Now, in light of recent situations like those of the Ukraine and the South China Sea, some studies suggest these alliances could have disastrous consequences. America's modern-day alliances resemble the disastrous web of allegiances in Europe before World War I. We can certainly say that these alliances are just pieces of paper. Beckley, however, examines the historical evidence and finds that there are several examples of times in history when the US has ignored the commitments placed on it by allegiances that didn't suit them, rebuffing desperate French pleas for overt help during the Battle of Dien Bien Phu in 1954, for example. In the end, Beckley concludes that the US security policy lies firmly in the hands of US leaders and is formed primarily by those leaders' perceptions of the nation's core interests. He's keen to note, however, that that does not mean we cannot see war against Russia or China at some point in the near future. It's just that it'll be political leaders who decide when to ignore a military alliance and when to go to war. Just pray that Trump and Putin don't press the play button. Qasem Soleimani, the 62 commander of Iran's elite Quds force, was killed in the US airstrike in Baghdad overnight. The attack, ordered by President Donald Trump, sent tensions between the US and Iran soaring, with Iranian officials promising revenge. The Trump administration justified its killing of a top Iranian general as an act of self-defense, followed by Robert Chesney, a national security law expert at the University of Texas at Austin School of Law, who said the administration's best argument on the UN Charter issue is self-defense. If you accept that this guy was planning operations to kill Americans, that gives the authority to reply, he said. Some legal experts questioned whether Trump had the legal authority to focus on Soleimani without the permission of Iraq's government, and whether it had been legal under international and US law. Even if it is the case that the US broke the law, it doesn't seem like something that's going to lose Trump much sleep.